Going on, guys? Jack here. We're looking at Iowa State ahead of the 2024-25 season today, and I think this is going to be one of the better teams in college basketball. But before we can move ahead, last year they had a really good year under coach TJ Otzelberger, and he's entering his fourth season at Iowa State, and they've gotten better each year. Last year they went 29-8. 13-5, second overall in the Big 12. They won the Big 12 tournament, going 3-0, and then they were 2-1 in the NCAA tournament, losing a close game in the Sweet 16 to Illinois. So, who's out? Who's back? And who's in for Iowa State? Well, they've lost some key pieces. Let's just call it how it is. In particular, I would say three main guys: Robert Jones, Hassan Ward, and Trey King. In different ways, they all brought a level of physicality and toughness to Iowa State last year, and energy, right? Like, Robert Jones' nickname was Big Rob Energy. So, they're going to be missed by a team that was defensively very active. They had this really... Listen, I didn't watch a ton of Iowa State basketball last year until after the season, which sounds weird. But going back and watching them, I didn't quite understand why they were so highly ranked, how they were winning a lot of these games, quite frankly. But then when I watched them, a lot of things seem to make sense. But getting back to what we're supposed to be talking about here. Other guys who left the program: Jackson Paveletzky and Omaha Biliu and Jelani Hamilton. Biliu, I would say, of the last three, is the most notable. He was a really highly ranked recruit who came to Iowa State and then just didn't end up part of the rotation at all. And he ended up transferring to Wake Forest. So, hopefully things work out better for him there. Who's back? Well, I would say they've got four major pieces coming back in Tamin Lipsey, Keshon Gilbert, Milan Momcilovic, and Curtis Jones. And those four guys are among the better players in college basketball, especially Tamin Lipsey. And Keshon Gilbert. I think Keshon Gilbert's a little bit slept on this Iowa State team. A lot of people talk about Lipsey, and rightfully so. He's a great point guard who is an amazing defensive guard and just does a really good job of guiding the ship for Iowa State. But Keshon Gilbert, he's my favorite player on Iowa State to watch. He's like, I want to say, he's a little bit chaotic, but in the best way possible. Like, it's almost a controlled chaos. He's very athletic. He can get to the rim. He can shoot it. He gets his teammates involved. He's a good defender. There's just a lot of things to like about him. Momcilovic is a really skilled, 6'8", 6'9" forward who can score off the dribble, shoot the catch and shoot threes. He's a really skilled player. And Curtis Jones is their lightning rod off the bench. To get those four guys back as the pillar of this team is just awesome for Iowa State as they build off of an excellent year last year. And then the last guy who is notable to me coming back, he didn't play last year, but he is 7'1", JT Rock. And that's important because the guys they lost mostly were in the front court in terms of the key players. So I think JT Rock has a potential to earn himself rotation minutes this coming season. Now, who's in for Iowa State? Most notably, I would say Joshua Jefferson. He's a 6'7", 6'8" forward from St. Mary's who I really liked last season. He got hurt somewhere in February and didn't play the last couple months-ish or so of the season. But I think he's a really good player, and I think if he can continue to improve as a shooter, which I think is certainly possible at Iowa State, we'll have less attention on him. He's got a real chance to be a very good player, not only at Iowa State, but potentially at the next level. Now, Deshaun Jackson. He's a 6'11", 275-pound center from Charlotte. didn't watch. I haven't watched any of Jackson. Let's just be honest. But looking at the stats, like 11.6 rebounds, solid. I wish he was a little bit better rebounder with his size. And he's going to be a very important piece for Iowa State next season. They also got Nate Heisey, who's a 6'5" like wing from Northern Iowa, who looks pretty good. And Brant Chatfield, who's a 6'10" big from Seattle. Those are the transfers among freshmen. They got Nojas Indrusadis, who's a 6'5" combo guard, ranked just inside the top 100 on 24/7 Sports. And on that site, they have Dwayne Pierce as a 6'5" guy who's ranked inside the top 200, but he's not enrolled at Iowa State. So I'm not sure what the situation is there. Iowa State fans, let me know in the comments below if you have any insight as to what's going on with that particular player, or whether he is even coming to Iowa State. So, with that being said, let's move into the projected lineup and rotation. I think it's pretty clear what their starting five is going to be. It's, to me, one of the easier ones to come up with as we've been going through the college basketball world. Tamin Lipsey, Keshon Gilbert, Milan Momcilovic, Joshua Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson, and I'd even go as far as to say the sixth man is Curtis Jones. So your top six, I think, are very clear, which I think is a really good thing on a college basketball team. You know who's going to start. You even know who your sixth man is going to be. And you can start to develop chemistry pretty quickly. Obviously, 4 of those 6 guys are returnees, key returnees who played big roles last season. And so Jefferson and Jackson just need to figure out what they need to do to help the team win. And I think they will do that. I really like the combination of Jefferson and Momcilovic in the front court. You do lose some of the physicality and the toughness that you were getting from guys like Trey King and Hassan Ward. But I do think that Jefferson is more skilled, and that will be important for this team. The big question for me is can Deshaun Jackson give them the level of activity that Robert Jones did last season? Because he was really important for their defense. Now, rounding out the rest of the rotation, I've got Nate Heisey, who I think will play good minutes for them, Brant Chatfield, and JT Rock. Now, I think the last two, Chatfield and Rock, are in a little bit of a competition for that backup 5 spot, and so it might be one or the other. I'm not sure if Chatfield can really play as a 4. Just looking at his numbers at Seattle, he shot the 3 but didn't shoot it well, so he might be best off as a 5. But like I've mentioned a few times here, the big question with this team, as far as I'm concerned, is between Jefferson and Jackson, maybe Chatfield. Can they make up for the loss of aggressiveness and physicality that they lost with the 3 key guys who left after last season? And that's the only question I really have, because other than that, I think it's a really good team who I think is going to be better offensively than they were last season, maybe a little bit worse defensively, but we'll have to see how Jackson and Jefferson kind of fit into the Iowa State defensive scheme. But I think it's a really good team on paper, and as far as I'm concerned, this is my number 1 team heading into next season. I just think they've got the guards, they've got the scoring forwards, and the only question is, can Deshaun Jackson, or maybe JT Rock or Chatfield, but probably Jackson, can he be that solid center that this team needs to be a legit, national title contender? Because that's where I think the rest of the roster puts them at. Schedule and predictions. So, we've got some non-conference games that are going to be a challenge in the Maui Invitational, where they'll take on first Auburn, which is going to be a great game. Then, depending on the outcome of that game and the other game on the other side of the bracket, they'll either play UNC or Dayton. And then their third game could be UConn, Memphis, Colorado, or Michigan State. So they'll get 3 good opponents no matter what. They take on Marquette in the Big 12 Big East Challenge, and they have a in-state rival game at Iowa. So some good scheduling by Otzelberger there. In conference, they'll play Arizona, UCF, Colorado, Kansas, and Kansas State as home and away. And only at home, they'll play Baylor, BYU, Cincinnati, TCU, and Utah. And on the road, they'll take on Arizona State, Houston, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and West Virginia. So, again, just a quick reminder, last year they went 29-8. They were 13-5 in the Big 12. This year, they were also just specifically 11-2 in the non-conference portion of their schedule. So, my prediction for this year's regular season for Iowa State, I think they'll go 11-2 again in the non-conference play. And I think they'll be 2 games better in the Big 12. I think they'll be 15-3. I think they'll split the home and away series with Arizona and Kansas. And then I think they'll lose another game probably on the road to either Houston. I would say Houston as of right now. Although I gotta say I'm not quite as high on Houston as some other people are heading into next season. But that's for another video. So overall, 26-5 is what I have them at going into the Big 12 tournament. Again, this is my number one team. It's my favorite team coming into this season. I just think they've got the pieces to make a deep tournament run. I like the fact that last year they made it to the Sweet 16. They have a little bit of experience. Now that's the only thing that might affect their deep tournament run is they don't have, Final Four experience. Their coach, Otzelberger, hasn't been there before, so that might come into play, but I certainly think they're a contender, and they're going to be one of the top teams to watch next season. So let me know what you guys think, Iowa State fans, other college basketball fans, in the comments below. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel for college basketball and NBA draft content, and tell a friend. Helps me grow the channel and make it so I can do more of these videos. So I'll see you guys next time.